Get my 6. Get her 6 too. What's up, girl? This one follows me around everywhere. So anyway, here, why don't you go play with your sisters? Welcome back to the most amazing homesteading channel on the planet that typically doesn't have anything whatsoever to do with homesteading. Homesteading off the grid. What? Wait, you want to be in the video with me? Come here. Come here. She can be annoying. She always thinks I have something for her, but I don't. I feed her, and then she keeps following me around. Come here. Come here, girl. Here, why don't you just sit right here? Sit right here. So, guys, I'm going to tell you a ghost story, and it's because of something that happened yesterday. I think I was visited by a presence, and it did remind me of a story I wrote many years ago, and I'm going to read that story to you tonight. It's one of the stories from October Nights, 31 Tales for the Halloween Season. It comes from Volume 1. So first I've got to go back and give you kind of like the backstory, okay? Maybe this is all she wanted. Maybe she just wanted some attention, huh? Hey, I haven't named her. Listen, I've got 11 chickens. We started with 12. They're all hens, but we got home late one night from a fishing trip, and a bandit raccoon was kind of having his way with the pen because we didn't get here in time to shut it up. My 22 Magnum had its way with that bandit, by the way. So anyway, of all the, all 11 of them, and they're not laying yet. They're going to start laying. These cinnamon queens should be laying any day now. And then we've got 6 red rocks that will start laying about a month later. But this one follows me around. I guess she's adopted me. I've not named her, and I should. So I want you to name this chicken in the comment section, okay? Name this girl. She's a spoiled one. She's the daddy's girl, huh? So, all right. So I was in 5th grade, and the teacher was going around asking us what we wanted to be when we grew up. Well, when she got to me, it was my turn. People were saying doctor, lawyer, teacher, all this stuff. I said I wanted to be happy. Well, I guess that wasn't an acceptable answer. Well, FYI, 40-some years later, here, why don't you go play with your sisters? I actually achieved that. That's what I am. I'm very happy. So she said that couldn't be an answer. Well, I made it happen. So she made me give her an actual answer, and we had just gone through like a history study on pre-antebellum America, back during the days when pre-Civil War there was still slavery, and there was such a thing in the textbooks called the wealthy Virginia landowner. These were the people, they had the plantations, and she's sounding like she might be getting ready to lay. We haven't had any of them lay yet. Maybe she's going to be the first, and maybe it's going to happen while I'm making this video. I don't know. So anyway, they painted this life of these wealthy Virginia landowners that had thousands of acres, all this land, and they didn't have to do anything. They just sat around, and they made millions of dollars a year on their tobacco crops and whatever else they were growing. So anyway, that's kind of what I got out of it. And I guess these were supposed to be considered the scourge of the earth. So she didn't want to accept my answer that I wanted to be happy when I grew up. So I said, well, okay, when I grow up, I want to be a wealthy Virginia landowner. Well, they called my parents on that one because I guess the public school teacher took that to mean I was endorsing slavery, which absolutely I wasn't as a 10-year-old kid in 5th grade. And I absolutely would not do that now as an adult. I mean, you folks been watching me for years. Man, no human being should ever own another human being. That's terrible. That's one of the ugliest marks on our nation's history. It did happen. I'm glad that it doesn't happen here anymore. Now it continues to happen, especially in places like the Middle East, where there are millions and millions and millions of people still enslaved. But for some reason, you don't hear much of a ruckus about that. I'm going to have to... Hey, will you guys be quiet? I got them all over the porch now. They're coming up. They're hearing me talk. See that? Yeah. So anyway, I was just remembering this yesterday. I'd worked all day, and things have been going really well here with our social media empires and affiliate marketing and all these things we do. And I was sitting on the porch here watching my chickens. So I let them out to free range the last couple of hours of the day. We keep them tied up in most of the day, but the last couple of hours, if I'm here, so I can keep them safe, I let them out and they just go everywhere. And but I remembered that for some reason, and I had this mug, this very mug, and I want you to take a very close look at this mug. And I had a couple of cold ones already in this mug. It was a hot day, but the cold ones were not like ice cold. They were just in a refrigerator in the house. I walked in, got another one, came out, poured it in the mug, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking across my vast estate. You can see a decent view of it here. Now the red thing down here, what that is that's a big like umbrella that you'd put over a picnic table. I keep that there. It's been hot lately. I put that over my beehive. I have honeybees down there in the fruit orchard. That's a fruit orchard, to keep the direct sunlight off of them. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking around and I'm really appreciating the beauty of my property, because this was a hayfield when we bought it. Everything that you see behind me, my wife and I and our son planted, you know, including the 30-foot tall weeping willow. It was an 18-inch cutting, and we have a pond over here. It's a really pretty place. I don't know if you, there's the pond. There's the Purple Martin house. It's currently being occupied by one family of bluebirds and two families of tree swallows. No Purple Martins yet, but we don't care. We just love birds. So anyway, I had a cold one in here, and I'm looking around, and I just say, kind of tongue-in-cheek, I said, well, I guess I'm finally a wealthy Virginia landowner. And then I heard the mug cracking. And I looked down and I saw that crack. And I just felt and took that as if there was a presence here that didn't quite like what I said. So I apologized to the presence, and I explained myself just like I had to in front of the teacher and the principal and my mother when they called her in. That's not what I meant. I do not believe in human beings owning other human beings, and I'm not saying, look at me, I'm a plantation enslaver person, you know. But it reminded me of a story, and it's a story that I'm going to read to you at this time. I know it's been about a week since I made a video, and a lot of you folks say that you like to hear my stories. By the way, I want to explain these hats. It's not that I intentionally keep my property messy. I actually keep it quite clean. I started noticing a few years back, I'd hang my hats up on the fence rails here, the porch rails, and these little house wrens started nesting in them. They started sleeping in them like hammocks, so I just left a few of them there. And house wrens do not migrate where I live in the winter, so they actually spend all year sleeping in my hats. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to read you a story. Let me quench my thirst here. I hope you like it. When this happened yesterday with the mug, it reminded me of this story. You hear my Beaver wind chimes back there. All right, so this is from October Nights, 31 Tales for the Halloween Season, Part 1, because there's a sequel, Part 2. You can get these books in print and Kindle on Amazon. You can get autographed print copies from our Etsy store. The links for both places are in the description box below. But this is a story dated October 7 called Careful What You Wish For. See, the way these books are written is there's 31 short stories, so you can read a different Halloween-flavored short story every night in the month of October. They're really fun. If you want to hear them all, if you don't want to buy the books, I have playlists on this channel. Just go to the channel's playlist and look for the October Nights playlist. And I actually, at some point in the last year, over the last few years, have read all these stories. So you can go listen to them all there, okay? This story is true, potentially. I'm sure you've heard it said, what goes up must come down. If it seems too good to be true, it probably isn't true. When the wind's at your back, prepare to duck. She heard that, didn't she? Well, unfortunately, these expressions are true, and I didn't listen. Here we were after we'd made bank, and I mean some really mad cash, as in a mid-sized truckload of it, working the most recent, very heated presidential elections. I mean, let me tell you, if you can get yourself the right job working on a presidential campaign, there's a lot of money to be made. But when you can get yourself working on both campaigns, yes, that's right, the campaigns of both parties, the amount of money you can make seems as if it should be illegal. So am I a campaign manager? A publicist? Neither. A journalist? Not even. A blogger? Yep, that's right, a blogger. This was written many years ago, and I'm going back to about I'm talking about the year 2016 in this story, okay? Ever seen any of those old movies like It's a Wonderful Life, where there's that one scene where everyone's getting in on the ground floor of plastics or cement, or the stuff they now use to plumb houses with? I think it's called PEC. It's supposedly way better than the copper pipes they used to use, and if you got in on the ground floor in PEC, you're probably richer than the generation who got in on the ground floor of copper piping. Everyone thought that the days of getting in on the ground floor of something and making a killing from it were gone after the dot-com bubble, something that really turned out to be the dot-nots. Not true. Social media was the next big thing in America, and it made the world smaller, figuratively speaking, so it was also the next big thing around the world. And if you were able to get in on the ground floor in social media to any degree, man, was there bank to be made. And we did it with blogging. You see, people are more skeptical about what they see on the internet these days, but just a few years ago, they believed every single thing they saw on the internet, because up until the advent of social media, when anyone and everyone could now be a know-it-all and a qualified source, much of what you did see on the internet was true, or, in the case of mainstream media, at least somewhat true, just twisted and turned to fit an agenda. Not anymore. Not with social media, and largely because of all the online blogs, the owners of which spread their wares, so to say, by harnessing large social media pages and channels in order to distribute to a large following. For the first few years, well up until the 2016 presidential election, really, Facebook was the wild, wild west of information. Anyone could write anything they wanted to write and publish it to a blog and then post it on their Facebook page, and people bought it hook, line, and sinker. It was all good if you went to these sources to get advice on how to cook a better casserole or which baits work best for bass in the summer. But if you were getting your news from these sources, may God have pity on you and what you think is really going on out there, because it's not. Don't think for a minute that the people writing that crap you read on the internet even believe any of it themselves. I know, because I was one of those guys. I'm a writer, first and foremost, and I can write about anything and make it sound true. Hell, I've written instruction manuals for Chinese manufacturing companies before because they needed someone to write instructions in English on how to put their stupid plastic pieces of shit things that they made together, and they paid me handsomely to do it. True story. I used to make money doing that in the Philippines for predominantly non-English speaking Asian companies. I would write the instruction manuals. Hey man, I had to eat. Going into the elections, I'd write a story about how the Republican candidate would be best to lead our nation, especially due to whatever issue of the day that was going on at the time, etc., etc. And then I'd turn around and write the same damn piece stating that the Democratic candidate would be the best for the same reason, etc., etc. And then I'd publish one story on our blog that catered to conservatives, and I'd post the other on our blog that catered to liberals. I'd then write a piece about how much the Republican candidate sucked, and then one about how much the Democratic candidate sucked, so on and so forth. And then we distribute this garbage all over Facebook and make bank. Okay, so by we, I mean my wife and me. I did the writing, she did all the spamming to the various Facebook pages we either owned ourselves or that we partnered with others on, allowing our partners, of course, to post on our pages. At one time, our collection of pages totaled more than 5 million fans, and our monthly blog views were over 10 million. What did that translate into as far as money goes? Between $20,000 and $35,000 a month. And we did that for 2 years. Do the math. Yeah. And then it all came tumbling down. It's crazy, guys. I mean, FYI, in the last month, I've had 700 million views on Facebook. I don't do BS politics anymore because even I can't stomach that stuff. But I'm crushing these numbers. Add some zeros. It's crazy. That's why I was having the thought yesterday when the glass cracked, you know. Then it all came tumbling down. What went up came crashing down. We'd known it seemed too good to be true, and it turned out it was. Unfortunately, we forgot to duck. Mark Zuckerberg realized finally that there were tons of us out there making tons of money on Facebook, and he was getting no cut from any of it. And it wasn't just bloggers. Anyone who had anything to sell was reaching a worldwide audience on his platform, and up until the end of 2016 elections, they were doing so for free. Zuckerberg has never hidden his preference in politics. He is extremely liberal and he detests President Trump. He thought, like many Democrats, the idea of Donald Trump, until that time a real estate mogul and a television celebrity, becoming president of the United States was downright laughable until Trump won the election. Zuckerberg lost his mind and he made his bias in politics clear by swinging the axe against all conservative Facebook pages. That translates roughly into him shutting the pages down, completely eliminating from Facebook, and permanently suspending the accounts of the page's owners. His given reason? Violation of Facebook terms and policies. It's known as censorship, folks. He didn't agree with what you were saying, so he could do it. It wasn't an issue of freedom of the press. Social media is not the media. It's privately owned corporations. They can do anything that they want, and those of us who participate on their platforms sign some sort of agreement acknowledging that, okay? It's business. It's not free press, okay? As you can imagine, when you go from making $30,000 a month to practically nothing, you get concerned. We contacted Facebook headquarters, and it was never explained to us what policies we'd violated. We hadn't. We just didn't agree with Zuck's political views. Well, half the time we did. We didn't care. We didn't have any. We were making money on both sides, okay? But hey, we still had our liberal pages because we were playing both sides of the middle, right? Wrong, as our new president would say. The double whammy was that Zuckerberg decided he'd start charging a toll fee, so to say, to post on your own Facebook pages, at least as far as allowing your followers to see your posts. Basically, you now had to pay $60 for up to 1,000 of your followers to be able to see your post if it had an external link. And there was no guarantee that your subscribers or followers would even click on the link if they saw the post. And in the world of blogging, if they don't click, you don't earn the advertising revenues, hence those clickbait titles that make you click. This meant we had to spend $60 in the hopes of making $3, which is how much we'd make if all 1,000 people on our blog post was served to actually clicked on a link, which meant we were automatically losing $57. That math makes no sense. Hence, we were now out of business. We've always paid our taxes. However, we paid them when we filed our taxes. 1 year after having made hundreds of thousands of dollars and owing over $60,000 in federal and state income taxes, we laughed knowing we had more than $100,000 in cash in the bank, and we were amazed to be able to pay the taxes in one fell swoop by way of an electronic debit and still have loads of cash left over. The next year, after having made hundreds of thousands of dollars and owing about the same as the year before in taxes, we weren't laughing. Because the blogging bubble had burst, thanks to Zuckerberg's political bias and greed, right after the election, and we'd gone from making the numbers I've already bragged about to making less than $2,000 a month, and that is non-exaggeration. When the bubble burst, it did so like a nuclear explosion. When the taxes were due, we were broke and didn't have the money to pay them. How in the hell are we going to pay the taxes? My wife would ask, sitting in our backyard, which was larger than the neighborhoods we'd both grown up in. How are we going to pay the mortgage and keep this place? I'd say, in answer to her question, which I knew wasn't an answer, but it's what was on my mind. We'd managed to buy our dream home during the good times, and I didn't want to lose it during the bad times. At some point, we'd started a YouTube channel, but we'd never really focused on it, so we decided now might be the time to make it our saving grace. That's his channel, by the way. Thanks for being here for the long haul, folks. We began making videos about the things we do around our property, like gardening and raising chickens and rabbits and planting fruit trees, and we garnered a small audience, but we weren't putting up the numbers we needed to pay the bills. Until I got an idea. I've got it, I told her one day. What? She said. People love paranormal crap. Let's make videos claiming our place is haunted and we'll get a larger audience, and the day is saved. That's stupid, she said. That stuff's not real. I know that, and you know that, I said, but there's tons of people out there who believe it. Let's give it a go. Whatever, she said. We've missed our first mortgage payment. We've got 2 months to figure it out before they start foreclosure. We knew a bit about the history of our property, having been told it by the near 90-year-old lady we bought it from. Our house is roughly 120 years old. It's had at least 4 deaths in it. Our driveway for centuries used to be the main road through our small rural farming community. At one point, it would have had enslaved people marching along it on the way to auction down in the city, 20 miles away. There were Civil War battles fought in our fields. 3 of the people who died in the house, little girls during the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, were buried in the woods out back. There was more fodder here to work with than anyone could imagine. Our first haunted video idea was simple. I was going to take the camera out and start talking as I walked up and down our long driveway in the dark. And we're out in the middle of nowhere, so when I say dark, I mean pitch black dark. My wife was going to hide about halfway up the driveway, and when I talked about the enslaved people on the way to auction, she was going to rattle some chains we'd laid out in the bushes. When I spoke of how Confederate soldiers marched up and down the road during the Civil War, she was going to light a lantern we had and trail me about 20 yards back. And when I got to the part of the road that was closest to the graves, she was going to cry like a little girl. The plan was foolproof, or should I say fool-worthy. Honey, I said the night we were to shoot the video, it's dark. Let's go out there and get this done before it gets too late. I want to watch a movie on Netflix. Just wait, she said. I'm talking to my mother. My wife never looked up from her smartphone as she continued her conversation with my mother-in-law. Tell her you'll call her back, I said. Let's get this done. My wife usually loved the opportunity of using me as her excuse to get off the phone with her mother, so I had no doubt she was going to do so this time. Our driveway is long, close to a quarter of a mile, so I decided to take the camera, head out into the dark, and start walking down to the end of the driveway and begin shooting the video. My wife certainly would get off the phone and head out and get in place. Her first spot of action was about 2/3 of the way down the driveway, so the logistics of it all seemed like good time management to me. Looking back on it now, I should have known something was different about the night air. Sure, it was October, and temperatures dropped quicker once darkness fell than they did in the summer, but when I went out and started walking down the drive, the temperature felt as if it had dropped a full 20 degrees in the 3 or 4 minutes it had taken me to head inside and tell my wife we were ready. You're just scaring yourself, I remember thinking. Then I thought nothing more of it. I got to the gate at the end of the drive, and I waited a full 5 minutes to allow my wife time to get in place. The moon was half full, and my eyes had adjusted to the light, and the gray of the gravel of the driveway stood out, so it would be easy enough to see as I strolled up the drive telling my story. I'd practiced my pacing during the day. The time in which I was trying to do it was 7 minutes. Sounds like a mysterious creature screaming from the forest. And I realize that's not a hat, that's a dirty sock. Amazing what glasses do for old people. Okay, 7 minutes. Long enough to tell the story, but not so long that I'd lose the audience's retention. Ready or not, here I come, I said, hoping my wife could hear me. I heard the chains rattle, so I knew she was in place and we were good to go. I clicked record on the camera and started heading down the driveway telling my tale. Human beings were paraded down this road on their way to be sold once reaching the city 20 miles away, a humiliating scar in our nation's history, I said as I passed the point in the drive where my wife and the chains lay a few yards away in the bushes. Right on cue, the chains rattled, but instead of following me up the drive, they ended up heading in the opposite direction quickly. Ah, shit, I remember thinking. My wife is totally effing this up. Stay in character. Stay in character. Maybe she's ad-libbing. If she had a plan, it was one I couldn't begin to figure out because it sounded to me like the chains were heading for the next county, as if she were acting as if an enslaved person had escaped from bondage and was heading for Canada. I kept going, and when I was another third of the way up the long, dark driveway, I started talking about the Confederate soldiers who used to march along this very route. My wife must have dropped the chains and come running back without them as quickly as she'd run away with them, because exactly on cue I saw a lantern light up behind me in the camera about 20 yards back. And then I saw another. And then I heard horse hooves. Stay in character, I remember thinking. Stay in character. Man, she is really ad-libbing. But how's she making those sounds? Is she using an app on her cell phone? The lanterns dimmed and the sounds of the horse hooves dissipated as quickly as they both appeared once I was another 100 yards up the driveway. I passed our house and headed to the edge of the woods and told the sad tale of how 3 sisters, all under the age of 12, had died in our house and were buried in these very woods. You know we're here, a small voice said, softly, from the woods. My wife was doing an excellent job of changing her voice. She was only supposed to fake the sounds of crying, but she'd been ad-libbing everything else so far, so this was dynamite. Can you see us? The voice came again. Can you hear us? These last 2 questions, however, came from different voices. Alas, my wife was making it sound as if all the voices were different. 3 different voices, as if they were truly coming from the 3 different girls. My wife was really going above and beyond. I was feeling guilty now for having doubted her. I stopped filming after finishing up with something about what it's like living on a haunted property, and then I told my wife I'd stopped recording and to come out. I heard nothing. I figured she must have quietly made her way back into the house while I was wrapping things up. I headed back into the house, and there in the living room sat my wife, still on the call with her mother. Shit, Mom, she said, I've got to go. Mr. Man is pissed. She got off the phone, and then she stood and walked to the back door where I was still standing and grabbed the light jacket, pulling it on as she slipped out the back door. Come on, she said. You're kidding, right? I said, following her outside. What? She said. There's still time for a movie. Come on, let's get this done and find out if it works. Stop yanking my chain, I said, and my gut was telling me that she wasn't. What are you talking about? She said. She could tell I was scared, so she immediately became the same, scared. She knew I was not yanking her chain any more than she was yanking mine, so she ran back inside the house and I followed. Once inside, we played the video I'd recorded, and the stuff we saw and heard on that video, the same stuff I'd seen and heard while filming it, had us locking all the doors and all the windows. We've come to realize this is not our house and property. It belongs to them. And both are extremely haunted, the house and the property. And we've discovered many, many more types of them since that night that this house and land that this house and land belong to. More stories for later, but hey, isn't that what this book is about? But we've turned it into a win-win because we're back in business. But we've also learned to be very careful about what we wish for because this time we got it. And yesterday evening, while I was out here enjoying a cold one after a long, hard day's work, I was reminded we're not alone on this property. We're not alone in this house. And I do need to be respectful for the presences of the past. Hope y'all enjoyed this. Again, October Nights, parts 1 and 2. It's available on Amazon and print and Kindle. You can get autographed copies from our Etsy store. The links to both are in the description box below. And it looks like my chickens have gone to roost, so I need to go shut them up. See y'all for more next time.